Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Let's crack like everyone's Friday. How was work? How was school? Let's go home. That's what you did. Welcome on in. Welcome to the stream, Mr. Raw, and everyone else in chat. Hope you're doing well. Welcome, Jazzberry Blues, as well. Welcome in. We're doing a bit of GTA Online today. I'm in a bit of a lobby with a few of the boys. I think they're all doing Kaya Perico setups. It's a public lobby, but it's literally just the boys, so it's pretty sweet there. But I hope you guys are all doing well. I'll run you guys another raffle in chat. I've just started the Pokemon, so you guys are able to see that. You can hear a little bit of the ocean behind me. Now, I've mucked around some settings yet again, always touching settings. Alright, so hopefully we have less issues tonight, but we'll have to wait and see. Even speaking of, how about we just do a quick little check of the stats, sorry. And, yeah, things are looking alright. Things are looking alright. And I have to take note of this to send to Nashi as well. Alright. And welcome on, Crimson. There's a raffle if you guys will use exclamation mark join. How you doing this fine Friday? How was work? How's kickback home? That's what you did. And make sure we're all good everywhere else. So I think I've meant to be spamming these links places, and I haven't quite done that yet, so I better share it. Boom. And I'll copy a link and spam it somewhere else like a menace. So I made a new short last night talking about the Court Center update and the stuff that's going on. And I'm pretty excited for it, but we got to get some money together. We've got about 10.5 mil, and we got at least 4 to go. I did learn about the rabbits and how the rabbits were murdered. And I was going to reference it in my short, but I figured, well, to be fair, I didn't learn it. I was watching someone stream and someone mentioned it on their stream, and I figured it would be in their thing. And I could have beat them with a punch getting my short out in time. But those poor rabbits getting murdered by the mansions, eh? It's not good. Now, when you do our wheel spins, let's get over to the game screen. I've already started driving and I've just started cruising along. Let's get this wheel spin sorted and see what the boys are up to. But how wild's that? The reference of the rabbits, because they were getting murdered by them changing out Devon Weston's place to a mansion. I was having a bit of fun with the Where's Wally 2 in the 4th painting, and I'm pretty keen to try and get this mansion early to get the exclusive stuff. Yeah, I have to actually go look at some clips of it, because I've not actually seen clips of it. I think you showed me something about the rabbits, or you mentioned rabbits. But maybe I have to actually see what it looks like, because I only know the reference. And also, why are we driving? It's not Weston's one, is it the one near the casino? See, look at that, didn't even know. Well, thanks for that, I suppose. Get my service vehicle out, we'll get my helicopter and fly to the casino. There's no point in me driving the whole way there. Still funny nonetheless. It's funny that they referenced it. But have they fixed it? Have they even, like, have they still not fixed it? Because that's even funnier, right? Like, they probably will remove it, I assume, with the update to the Court Center stuff, because they referenced it. But then who knows, they did fix it. Okay. Still funny, but that's just an oversight. Killing the rabbits. You can bring up the RSPCA because, what is it? Rockstar don't care. Is that the boys? No, they're an insurgent over the other side doing something for some reason. They said something about doing the Kaya Perico stuff, but I'm no help to them. I don't know when they'll get me in there. This rabbit's going. So making little squeaky noises and shit too. It'd be so gruesome just hearing them die and get murdered. It's not good. Not good. Pretty funny, but yeah, quick money check. Sitting at 10.5. Oh, we got one rando who's joined the lobby. Yeah, it's this one here, the rabbit killer. Almost perfect timing, that is. Actually not a bad looking mansion. And like after looking at it with you, right, I think we ended up deciding that we might be better off going with one that's close to the courts, and we actually don't know how beneficial it will be having one that's close to the court center yet, which is something that Dark Viper pointed out when I was watching his stream yesterday. So I didn't really think about that, but I also don't know if I care that much, because like I don't mind getting the free shit and just working a bit harder. They mentioned it. I was just gonna parachute down, but I'm gonna wanna use this helicopter afterwards, so. Oh, what are you trying to catch there? Dragon hair. Oh, that's a rare as Pokemon. Oh, we're gonna crash. That's not good. Ah, good enough. Oh, true. Yeah, but like, is like, from what I've gathered online, like, 'cause that's like, well, you don't know that like 100% is at least what people are sort of acting like. Because like the vibe I got, so I literally spent like today watching, not that it matters that much, but I watched GDA Men's video. I watched Sunny Evans stream on it, and I watched Dark Viper's video on it, and like they're not taking that as gospel, whilst it probably is gospel. And the thing is, you can buy all of them anyway, so if you have enough money, like you're not going to care that much. I wonder if the paintings are exclusive per mansion too. Is it like with the mansion that you completed on? Because that's all that we found out, right? So we know we're going to get 4 new paintings straight away, and then there's 3 every week. And there's like speculation it could be like the chop shop, with like you're limited to the amount of like mansion heists you can do due to the exclusive paintings. But does that mean that like you can only store those 3 paintings in the mansion that you organize the heist in? Or will you be able to do it in every mansion? I guess we don't know because that upgrade's not out yet, right? Just if elite. Oh. Whoa, Richmond. Like you want to be looking at the screen instead of flying into the ground. Oh, we're going down here. That's terrible. I'm leaving this dude's bloody thing though so I can go on my things. Yeah, 100%. But will you need it like in every one to take the paintings into? I guess you won't know until it all comes out. Leave his protection detail for now. Sorry, Raw Cartel. It's going good, Nashi, mate. How are you going? How's dinner cooking? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. What are you having for Dintins tonight? I never asked you in the DMs. I'm so sorry.
You're fine,
I'm actually in a public lobby with the boys, but ignoring them like a stooge.
I fucking lost it. Now what we gonna do? Oh fuck now.
That's a good one. I'll take that. I'll take a crash of that. I haven't had any crashes yet, but maybe the crashes that's in the ground counts. Good one, Viewbot. Thank you. I wish it was November too, bro. Well, actually, no, I don't, because I turned 26 this November, so I don't wish for that. No, thank you. Deep fried eggplant chippies and pork snags. I don't want to yuck someone else's yum, right? But this pork snags now good. But deep fried eggplant chippy sounds dubious. In saying that though, I love sweet potato chips. Love them. Don't complain about it. What the fuck?
You need something, huh? One of your rides? Let me know.
Well, I like sweet potato chippies, and that's not different. Most people are like, oh yuck, like Jazz doesn't like it. But eggplant chippies. Oh. So I'm not a big fan of aubergine, eggplant, and that'd probably be why. But, you know, it'd be good for you. Fucking oath. To be fair, the only way I've eaten eggplant is like roasted with roast, and I don't like it. I'm gonna sound funny here, but I don't know, like the texture of like mushy roasted food is just not it. Like carrots are good because carrots are sweet, but then like pumpkin and like eggplant, nah, no chance. I shouldn't be saying it, but like I said, I don't want to yuck someone else's yum. How you doing, Thomas? And how you doing as well, Viewbot? Welcome to the stream. How you doing this fine Friday? And Viewbot, mate, I'm looking for your attention today. If there's any issues on the old YouTube, mate, please let me know. So change some things, and you might be a little bit behind the bunch, but it might have improved quality. Just woke up, mate. What, you sleeping in? No, it'd be morning time, cup of tea time. If Craver's here, I'd be saying you have a cup of tea, and he'd tell me I don't drink tea, and I'd say I know that, bro. But I ask you that because I'm a bit of a racist and you're from England. But nonetheless. What is the time difference for you? Like, is it Friday morning? Because it is, right? Oh, shit. The 3, so you've woken up a bit late. Looks good so far. Thank you, Vbot. You're an absolute legend. Except me crashing into shit. Yeah. Yeah, right. So it's like 10 hours behind. Oh, I was like, that's 9. My guy's here. I actually have, for no particular reason, I have the New York, like, time on my clock on my phone, and then I also have the London. I do have a particular reason, but it's not like obviously I pay attention to, and like the only thing that really matters is like, oh yeah, we're plus 11, plus 10 when it's not daylight savings here, and then we Gucci. But like the time difference stuff is actually always kind of fucks with my head. Wait, fucks with most people's head. Alright, go see this dealer and I'll join back in this guy's bloody text roar or something. He's not talking back to me. So we're getting the cargo coming in. I think everything's resupplied. If I do the stash house, I'll make sure my acid lab's resupplied. Pretty sure that doesn't even need resupply. I'm calling Mutt though to see how much.
Adios.
Because Mutt, if it's like 20 grand or something, or under like 10 grand, that means it's basically full in supply. But if it's like, what, 60 grand or something, that means I could do that stash house and resupply. That's a little cheeky trick, right? Am I correct in that? I'm pretty sure I'm on the money. If it's like close to full, yeah, it's not that close to full. I might as well go see the stash house and fill up the acid lab. Or is there a chance they'll go to the counterfeit factory? So I might as well check with LJT as well. So I did say to someone that I'm pretty sure the stash houses only fill up the bloody biker clubs or the biker businesses, but I'm probably wrong on that. I feel like I am. Oh ho! Holy shit, that's a legendary. Oh, Shanks is in this lobby too. Everyone's getting in here. I should probably jump on a call with these guys. Why can't I not call up LJT and resupply my business? Something going on. Well, I'll just do it. Just send it. Oh, Crimson's in here too. He's getting busy. And you got pretty lucky. I just said this was an empty public lobby, so no complaints, right?
Where you from, mister?
Where you gonna go?
You got nowhere to go now?
Go fuck yourself.
Alright, sorted.
Motherfucker.
I just realised that you can't fucking jump inside, which is why you can't roll. I've been trying to roll every time I come in here and shoot these fucking idiots in these little stash houses, and you can't roll. Fuck! No, I'm just spamming spacebar for no reason. Anyway. 73, 27, 38. 73, 27, 38. So I can remember to say. 73, 27, 38. I believe that was it. Do my memories any good, or have I still have memory like Civ? No, it's better. Short-term memories are right, long-term memory not so much. Right, so that's kind of all the menial shit out of the way though. The only thing else I could do is like G's cash. But don't care that much. Oh, is that raw in or something? I assume so. Once you look for G's cash themselves. Oh, it's Crimson. Well, This one's a dog one to find. Usually it's on the fucking platform around there, but I don't actually ever know. So doing the same thing. Everyone's getting their little daily shit out of the way. Holy fuck. Well, there you go. Proof in the pudding. I just resupplied my acid lab. Alrighty, so what's a quick way to make some cash? I got a crate warehouse that's nearly full. Acid lab that's probably close to full. Go do a delivery on that. I can also check the counterfeit cash factory. I could do a Cluck and Bell for another 500k. I'll probably buy another one of the biker businesses and make a bit of money from that too. There's also the races are 2-3 times at the moment, but none of my cars are upgraded enough to do that. And I was also kind of wanting to complete a bunch of the missions, trying to complete the, at least like the Lamar Davis contact missions. I did all the Gerald ones. I still got a couple of challenge with it, but I'm not too stressed. I've gone past my acid lab too, because I'm too busy talking. Use what you got, IMO. Yeah. And just keep grinding it like I have been. There's a couple of things I can do to make a bit of cash. There's also the, I haven't done any of the parachute stuff and like daily challenges, and that's a good way to make a bit of money. But I'm thinking I should probably set myself the challenge of actually doing these. I've got a dispatch mission, car meet, sell weapons. And that's bunkers stuff, right? Win 2 races, I'm going to struggle with that. Alright. I unlocked new rounds as well, so let's see if I can put those on anything. Got traces. Oh, got full metal jacket and armor piercing. Just damage to vehicles though. I'm probably better off keeping the extended clip for now until I get armor piercing, right? I don't think I have anything else that actually is worth it. That's what you were saying, right, Crimson? Rate's looking right. I was gonna try and get that that elite challenge to get what is it, all of them done? That's body armor. But it doesn't actually matter that much. I got 2 crate warehouses, and like one's got like 100. It's nearly there. Yeah, so I might put it on my Mark II then, like my was it SMG, the MG, Combat MG Mark II. Oh yeah, and this needs to deliver in as well. All right. Well, I chucked those FMJ on that Combat MG that I've got done the Mark II. Did you chuck in the SMG? Well, I've only got the bullet, the armor piercing rounds in the SMG, so that kind of like marks that out for me, right? Because those are pretty handy to have at least on one gun. It's just a shame I don't have it on the special carbine Mark II. Sad. Right, put it on the that's why I've sort of made the choice of the Combat MG Mark II. But I don't even have that on there either. Oh, I can put the FMJ on there though. That's kind of perfect. Can you use it on a bike? The Mark II you can, yeah. You can use it on a bike. Oh, so straight up that makes way more sense to fucking... Oh, bro. Yeah. Facts. Straight up facts. That's just meta. I feel like an idiot. Thank you. Right, let's do it. It's only 50k. I don't really actually mind doing it either way. Now use that. Straight up fat cool.
Hey. See ya.
Alrighty then. Well, let's deliver some acid and probably do crates. That's an easy mill though. What, 1.5 mil? If the counterfeit factory's full, we get 2 mil, and then a Cluck and Bell is like at least definitely 2, maybe 2.5, like 2.2. So, and that's like mansion. Oh, I went inside like a spoon. Yeah. Is this lobby alright to do this in? Is it just us? DJ Ethanol's only random and they're low level. Also, they'll be looked after. It's because it's stupid. The SNS is a pretty good gun, isn't it?
Still here, friend.
Alright. Was it worth boosting this and then do a delivery straight away? Probably, right? Oh, he's doing a Cayo Perico heist. Just as I boosted this. That's pretty good. Boosting is useless. I thought this was actually good. I want to do this Cayo Perico, but I wonder if they'll wait for me. We'll quickly do this. Oh, the SNS? Oh, true. Would make more sense if we're talking about the thing I was just talking about, my bad. Of course that would be fucking good, yeah.
Oh my fucking god! I would.
Alright, which drop-offs do we have? Oh, just there. Sweet. Just don't get done by cops. Alright. Don't get done by cops. Where are they around here? Those two there, probably. Last time I did it over there. I'm inside of this person as well. In both spots, but... Send? Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's one. He's out of my X-Dose. We roleplay with him. He's in. Well, I guess he was in Feral Few MC before the MC. I guess it's not fully folded, but we're not really roleplaying in Supernova that much anymore. So of us in here, there was Raw, Dose, and I think Fuse went as well, but he left. I seen him go offline. And all the people in the lobby, I kind of doubt anyone's going to come smack me. Hopefully not, though. Touch some wood. This is fake wood, but nonetheless. I think I have time to join. The cops there, cops there. We go down? Yeah. Down is good. Thank you, by the way, Crimson. Still got a protection detail. I need to get an oppressor so bad. Right. Where's the furthest one away? Is it north? Yeah, I might go down towards the left. Going down towards PDM and then go up to the coast at the end. Yeah, so as people see that, they're going to be like, nope, no thank you, not getting done by that. Or they think that you've already claimed the kill, basically. Surprisingly though, like, I've only been trolled like twice now in public lobbies on Enhanced, and there's still obviously trolls around. But it was even like I got griefed by I didn't even get griefed by like someone in an oppressor. It was someone for a grenade launcher, dude, and they just like came up to my bike and started going boop 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 boop. And I was like fighting the cops, trying to fight them off after I got done by one of the sting operation deliveries. And yeah, they blew my bike up, and I was just like, I almost didn't care because I was like that kind of cook skill. I was there too busy fighting the cops, and then they just grenaded my shit and it was done. Bike took like 5 or 6 grenades though. It's kind of wild. Oh, but the other time though, I definitely got done by a hacker. Someone came down and they were in a normal jet, and like they full just like lock on automatic fired me with their gun, and I was like, ah. And like, yeah, some people probably are that good with like flying jets and whatnot, but this seems so like it was just 100% accuracy, blew me up, and then like they flew off as soon as my bike was blown up because the work there was done. That's probably a cop there. Yep. This is the one. Hopefully. Yeah. They've been around for so long too. Like, I know the Hydras have VTOL, but regular jets don't have VTOL, right? So... like, just seeing an oppressor is so scary. I have a feeling they probably didn't wait for me. Probably should have done the car with these guys, but anyway. That's alright. We live and we learn. Yeah. Which is why I pulled us out of the lobby, right? Give them good money though. It's like 1.7 mil for 2 people. Between the 2 of them, 800k each. Not bad at all. I'll, when they get back, I'll have to invite them all to the delivery thing. One thing I was looking at though is upgrading the delivery vehicles, right, for the crate warehouses. I think I remember reading a guide somewhere that was saying that most of them aren't really worth it. Especially now you can just do it in invite only lobby, so like you're not pushing time limit or anything. Just gotta hope you get a good RNG for the delivery mission, because I think one of them is like really shit and 2 aren't too bad. Yeah. Was it like the plane is like the shit one and the truck's the alright one, or is it the other way around, the boats? It's not an issue, yeah. I think it's the boats that shit. Am I gonna hit that tree? I just died instantly. Nice! It's a terrible place to die. I think I can hear it still. You're bringing it to me, mad. Thank you. You're done. Oh, just being an idiot here. "30 seconds and just dumb yourself dirty." The easiest casino heist, if you want to do that. I've actually never done the casino heist, because that's the new Diamond Casino one, right? I've actually never done it. I've only ever seen it in the sense of people recreating it in 5M. And that's because people use the cameras in it to in other heists, and I use it in my own. Yeah. I'll leave the area. Try to get in your bike. Yeah, I'll smash that out. For sure. I don't even know how to do it, that's the rough part. I'll be on a complete noob. Right, done. I'll check how many crates my warehouse is up to as well. Refill my snacks and stuff. I'll do that right now. And sit behind you. Easy. Oh, there's no Pokemon there, Theo, mate. There's no Pokemon. That's actually, well, if you guys don't know, chat, whenever it's like before 8 o'clock at night, especially on a Friday night, the little guy is playing on Jazzberry Blues' account. So he's actually watching the stream, catching Pokemon. Which is why she set up with Master Balls to catch them. I don't know, I kind of reacted weird then. I felt weird saying hello. Look, he's typing in there now, saying hello. Should go down there. Just makes you think sometimes, why am I here doing this instead of being down there with him? Yeah, we tested that out in one of the other heists, right? And the Cayo Perico. Is it similar to those fingerprints? Different one. Damn. Fuck it, I might need to let her know, but easy. I need to do some more of the hack practices. I only remember like the old school hacks from back in the day. A lot simpler and quicker to do. Ah. it's probably not surprising. I wonder how difficult this court center heist is going to be. Like, in the writing of it, you're going to get less money, right, if you don't, if you get caught by anybody during the middle of the heist. So that means it's rewarding people that use stealth only. And, like, I feel like stealth isn't, like, really that big in most people's heists, right? But in saying that, the easiest way to do Cayo Perico is stealth. The easiest way to get, the Clockenbell done is stealth, although that's a raid, not really a heist. And a bunch of little photos. And you gotta figure out what that photo is with the little photos. Right. How many crates do we have? Because it does look nearly full. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, got 99 crates. I'll have another 1 to 3 soon. It's an easy 2 mil just there alone. Nice. What's Turtle's evolution? Alright then, well, I'll let you do that setup and give us an invite, and I'll let you kick back. We can field that too and do some missions. Yeah, I'll go hit up the chickie, the assistant, right? Or can I go Scholar to do it? So that'd be better pay than doing the casino heist as well, no matter what, right? So we can refill it from just here. I'm not gonna do it. No, I'll go over there. Alright then, what? To the assistant we go, to the office. There'll be 1 to 3 more coming. Get some special crates. It's actually one of the things I haven't done yet. I can source special cargo, right? But I thought, like, I'm paying old mate for that, so that's what they do. Or do you do it through the assistant? So I know you can just source 1 to 3 crates, but is there a different... Is that a 2-seater? No? I guess not. I think it's so quick. Definitely not. Not a 2-seater. Dude. The office. So this is the FMJ rounds. How good is this? Oh. Unsilenced gun, lovely. Oh, don't know I'm up for this. I'm an idiot. Probably not. Oh fuck.
How can I be of service? So you don't want to get in serious trouble, huh? Okay, leave it with me.
I do the dumbest shit while I'm driving, just sitting low. I'm terrible. Anyway. Start sourcing them. A real quick graph for you guys to chat. Make sure you guys use exclamation mark when you get in there. Let me get some more snacks.
Have a great day. Boss. Hi there. How can I help you? Anything to keep you productive, boss.
Smokes. Don't want any more smokes.
Bye.
Is it through her that you get the special cargo?
Hello. What can I do for you?
Personal vehicles and then exporting.
Have a good day.
Alright, I'll buy one. We'll start sourcing. 99, like, oh, what is it, like, do 4 source missions of 3, that's 12, plus another 3. So we can just do 4, and that's it. Am I just understanding it incorrectly? Alright, get through. So hopefully we can do 3, get away with it, but we have to do 4 at most. Do I exit to a service vehicle?
Oh, hi. What do you need? Quite a collection you've got here. No problem. I'll have your personal vehicle brought around.
I need to buy some new vehicles too, stop being a stingy. I haven't bought that baddie yet.
I've sent the collection point to your GPS.
Oh, you're a DeLorean? Mad. Mad. Let's go. Off an ammo, snacks, P's and Q's. Oh, you're joking. Right, well, do an armor run after this. These really aren't that fast too, that's kind of funny. I guess that makes sense though. The other things are jets, these are cars. Literally singing like a jet turbine. I remember when these released though, these were sick. I definitely miss all the shit and all the money in like the cars, and like I had everything on War Stock that came out before the next gen console release, like when they brought out Xbox One. So, because I know they like expanded everything and added so many more vehicles. And it was like, just the tank was like the most expensive thing you could buy back in the day, the Rhino tank. And then I got a few of the things that came out in the Xbox One. I feel like I missed out on a lot of it. It's also new to me. And genuinely fun. Doesn't really feel too grindy. It would at your point, I feel like that, 400 mil. Smooth. Right, to the warehouse. We had a quicker way to the warehouse that way, but one of the things I learnt last night doing a bunch of stunt races and stunt or just racing in general was that I need to get some cars upgraded so I can fucking actually have a bit of a chance in races, because at the moment I have 0 chance. I tried and then realised I can't be using my personal vehicles because none of them are upgraded at all, if not fully. So yeah, I need to get some cars together, and then there's obviously all the meta cars, but I think racing's probably gonna cause me to go grey early, I'm not gonna lie. I still enjoy it heaps, but it was not that fun last night. And I don't know if it's because of the car or I just suck. I think it's because I suck, to be honest. Right, no fluffing about, done. Should be able to do my wheel spin pretty soon too. Right, back to the joint we go. Oh, we can only source so many though, can't we? I can fill up the other one. Or is it, can you just fill them up as many times as you want? Because surely you can just sit there grinding until you run out of money. Yeah, 5 minute cooldown, it's not too bad. We did the acid deliveries. You can always swap the other one. Straight as to alternate, yeah. Go to them and we'll start alternating. Has that always been 5 minutes, or has it been longer in the past? Probably not. It probably has always been 5 minutes. I can't remember why I bought that Vinewood lot one. I think that was one of the cheaper ones from memory. And I was looking at the guide, I was looking at all the jobs again. Some of the ones just on GTA forums. And I think they were saying that the ones that I got are the good ones. I have actually the docs. I can post them in the chat. Not that it matters. I'll post them in the chat, but... Right there. There you go, that one. There you go. This is a Google Doc that I found somewhere. Yeah, true. Probably should have got closer ones together to my office. I didn't realize you couldn't change though. I thought you could sell them and move them along. Ah, grave mistake. That happens. You get that in the big jobs. But yeah, that's the guide I followed there in chat. I don't like follow it to a T though, I don't think. Otherwise I probably would have had better spots. Not worth it though, yeah. Doesn't matter that much. Makes sense. Right. Next 3 crates. Now the Vinewood backlot I believe is about half full. I'm doing pretty well on that one. But I've literally just been like paying with the get the person to go get them every 48 minutes every time I'm in. Means you have time to do other things, but not the most efficient way really. A bit of a boring grind by yourself, to be fair. Black and Belt, way more interesting. Let go.
What's cooking?
No, I actually need to get a gun locker in one of these joints so I can fucking get one of the challenges, get the career like outfits or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Well, like if I ever got to the point where I was like as rich as you are, like, and I didn't care, even a couple like 100 mil and you bought all the stuff that you need, then it's sort of like, all right, then start min-maxing, right? But at this point, just trying to get, I want to get like access to most of the content before GTA 6 comes out, if not all of it. That's kind of the hope. Especially the stuff that I haven't seen before, right? And like, the real aim is to complete it all. Like if I could like, I'm not gonna be able to 100% it, but if I could complete most of it, that would be fucking the tits, that'd be sweet. And then I would feel like oh shit, I'm in a space where we're ready to look at what GTA 6 is doing. Because like, this is me being weird to lore and chronologically, right? But GTA Online started, I think, like a couple months before the setting of GTA story mode, and then it's just progressed along with real time, right? So like GTA now online, it's 2026. So like, I wonder if GTA 6 they're gonna set it like, is it gonna be like 2025 when 6 was meant to release? But nonetheless, it'd be one of the best points to see if any of these characters end up recurring, which I dare say they at least will in the online part of 6. Well, whether or not it's confirmed, I'm scratching because I'm anxious talking about this. But whether that's confirmed will be in the story mode as well, who is anyone's guess, right? But most of the characters have spliced over both ways. Some are online only, some are story mode only, but most are becoming, well, most of the ones that were story mode only are becoming both ways. Obviously, oh, yeah. Realized at the last second. It's like to our right somewhere. Left now. What the fuck? It's just so weird to use. This is cool, but. I've never done this minigame. That was almost it, I swear. Oh, but you have to save the dots or anything. I've literally never done this way of sourcing a crate before, and this is wigging me out. Thank God I have someone that's not a noob. Like, it makes sense. Obviously, you just chuck it on and you can see. This one here. Alright. So more on this highway then. Right, like shit like this should be sick in 5M too. Like, and all it needs is the XYZ or something, and then bam, little radar. Somewhere out here. Oh, there we go, that's it. Whoop. Go and get the shot off. Nice. Can't believe I missed that first shot though. Terrible at the game. Yeah, this is a safe lobby. Whoever this DJ Ethanol is a noob, obviously. Oh yeah. I'm just giving myself grief, to be honest. I know what happens. Mate, no, I need to be perfect. I need to be the best of every shot. I can't miss a single one. Can never miss. That's alright. As long as I don't do stuff like what Shanks did last night, then we're all good, aren't we? We're pretty much Gucci. I was actually thinking about that, and I'm like, I'm not the best of the shit I got. My memory's a bit shit, but I'm alright at aiming, alright? So, that's a plus. Yeah. I missed that. That tutorial was actually pretty fun. Not replaying it and then it not working when G Online first came out, but we breaking this one. Is there a new tutorial? Oh, well, I think I would have done the new one actually, thinking that. Oh, you lost your car. Oh, there it is. Oh, really? What? So I haven't done this one at all. We got to make a new character then. Oh. Just trying to send me to the next car. I was thinking that though. That's pretty sick, not gonna lie. What are these guys doing too? Are they still around? Are they still trying to do this heist? Any messages from him? I think they're all on the line. Oh yeah. Yeah. For a second there, it took me a hot minute to figure out what you meant, but yeah, sell that warehouse after the mansion, but sell the first one beforehand to get the money. Yeah. Yeah, easily, right? We get like 2 mil. Damn, this is a big storm too. I'll do that now then. And then keep doing what I'm doing with like telling my little guys to source them, eh? Not bad. Alright, I hope this goes alright.
There's the boss. Hi there. How can I help you?
That's not the right one. That's not the right one. I'm so sorry.
What can I
I'm
do
a
for
fucking
you?
idiot. Let me whichever one you want. Yeah. And I'll get the I'll probably get the Richmond Villa, the one that's between the bunker. I've done a boo but some reason thought that was the button you press. And I know it's not. Fucking idiot. Well, now it's an empty lobby. That's actually kind of good. We'll just go there and sell it.
We're moving that stuff.
Do this, go straight to that big warehouse, deliver it. Bam. We'll probably even get lucky with it too. Easy 50k. That's alright. And we'll probably, by this point, I got that at the start of stream. It's been an hour at least since stream started, so we're going to get the text saying that these guys are dropping off packages soon. So it kind of works out anyway. I'll check my brief to make sure it didn't come through already. So is it dialogue? Be this one. Yeah, nah. Hasn't happened yet. I reckon it'll happen in the next 10 minutes, so. Last way right in there, we didn't see the person back in there. I don't think I've actually done the export mixed goods. I haven't done like any of the VIP work. I've only done one of each of those VIP missions. And I don't know how much I did it back in the day. Like I definitely did the MC Clubhouse missions because I was like in the thick of it trying to grind when that all came out. But yeah, the CEO stuff I didn't really touch because I was a brokey. The MC Club was like much cheaper. And the businesses were better because you could bloody glitch the production of them. Hell yeah. I'm just being efficient. What's this down there, is it? Oh, that's pretty quick and easy. On this is probably why it's good having this warehouse, because if you get these missions, you get that delivery point, you're laughing. Was it filled 100%? Alright then. Don't waste time. Well, not waste time, don't waste dollars. Go to my usual thing and just try and hide in the freight containers. The fuck is that one doing, bro? Please don't turn. Look, my muscle memories are going back. I've definitely done this before. As soon as I got the cops on me, I was like, nope, done this. I remember this. I remember this. Look, they're after you now. I think it's the elite challenge done too, so maybe I'll stop being lazy. Yeah, that's why I bought that warehouse. I fucking remember doing this. This rings a bell. shit in this game, dude. Right, bring a vehicle over here. The best of V Hale would be to bring. Oh, there you are. Anyway,
You calling for some? I'll get back to it then.
the one crate sourced. Sending it. I could do a quick raffle for you guys in chat. Make sure you guys use the exclamation mark join to get in there, and I'll do 100k. All right. La boom. Yeah, sweet. Alright, everything looks good over on this side. Me just checking my stream stuff to make sure nothing's broken. So that was pretty rough, all those issues we were having last night. I did also change some performance settings though in-game to see if that changes anything for me. So I have a feeling I was maxing out my VRAM due to me changing my DLSS settings. But only time will tell. Time will tell. Boom, boom, boom. And you guys have a minute 30 left to get into that raffle. Make sure you guys use the exclamation mark join. Viewbot's getting there on YouTube. He's not missing out on the chippies. He never does. The best Viewbot ever. One that actually talks like a person. I still find it funny that I thought you were a real Viewbot. I actually got sus. That'd be so on the nose. Imagine someone named their YouTube like bot a Viewbot. Get banned instantly. Then you're not banned, so. Right. Let's do the correct one.
Good to see you, boss.
We're definitely getting it before Tuesday. I was playing on grinding on Tuesday too. I probably will play throughout Tuesday while the update comes out. Because what it goes live for us at 4 in the afternoon. Pretty good timing, not gonna lie. We might not even need to. It's probably worth doing. I could definitely convince a few of the boys to come around. If I can run the heist, but so can a few of the people we have hang out in the cord with. Split the money, BGs. How you doing, Big Trash Panda as well? Welcome to the stream. How was your Friday? Hope you're having a good day. Welcome on in. How was work this week at home if that's what you did? I need to replace this water though. Yeah, and you won the 100k too. It's almost fitting. Oh, a little quicker.
Just pick.
Nice, and Viewbot got himself 100k. Lick a tongue. Bloody hell. Worst looking Pokemon. What's everyone up to with their days, but I feel like I'm being a little less talkative than I usually am. What's everyone been doing? Oh, so crates are down here. Can we jump out? If you get some height, I'll jump out. Parachute down. It didn't work. Oh. Yeah, good work wasn't too bad. Glad it's the weekend. How you doing? I'm alright. Feeling like an idiot. That part's definitely true. There you go. That's alright. Feeling like a bloody idiot, but we got it. Right, we need one more crate. What's it over here? You reckon this? Yeah, I'm doing alright, but it's been bloody stressing about stuff. The mechanic with my car on Tuesday and trying to sort stuff out with that. I had my NoPixel application and that was not successful, so I've been in the process of rewriting that and reapplying. Oh, I'm missing a crate still. I'm missing a crate still back there. Oh, text. What? Oh, anyway. That's so annoying. So getting that as one of the collection missions is fucked. But yeah, no, other than that, they've been pretty alright. I was sitting there all day, like, rewriting my thing, though. And, like, sort of discussing it with Nashi and being like, where did I go wrong? What do I need to improve here? And, like, I didn't expect to get accepted straight away, but fuck me. Not much to work off. Not much to work off in the denial. Yeah, I thought it'd be, like, pretty cool to get into that before, GTA 6 came out. And I've, like, sort of wanted to for years now, but... yeah. I mean... it's elite for a reason, I suppose. You gotta jump through the hoops, right? Fuck. Fuck, dude. Thank you too, Crimson. I'm a fucking idiot, dude. Why did I jump out? I disappointed myself immediately. Just an instant regret. You playing on Prodigy? Oh, nice. Was that the Prodigy? Are you enjoying that? I've seen some people playing that. I'll quickly just pay this person too quickly.
Hi. For real?
It's done, no problem.
NoPixel's not everything. No, it's not. No. I was more just like... yeah, I was disheartened because I thought I'd get a bit more of a response back telling me what I did wrong and where I could have improved it. And I got a bit of... it felt like a cookie cutter response. Whether it was or not, doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's what it felt like, right? And I was just like disheartened and I was like, fuck, dude. But, it's fact, like, you pay money for it too. And that's like the other part. It's like, fuck, I probably could have saved that money elsewhere. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that much either. Money's money. Money comes and goes too. It's not like the end of the world. You know, because it's the principle of it, I guess, in a sense. But money comes and goes, and it wasn't that much money in the grand scheme of things. But it was literally a copy of GTA 6, like $10 off it, right? Yeah, nice. That one's got a similar process though, right? You have to apply and stuff like that too. Or we have to still get the last crate. Oh, lag. You going? It's alright, I'll wait here. No other public as well. So it's NoPixel, to be fair. NoPixel have a public, you can just play on. I actually went and tested that. I didn't know Prodigy had a public though. Could you send me, I mean, I could just Google it. I'll have a look. I'll have a look. Because what I did was, as I tested it, because there's no point obviously applying for somewhere if you haven't tested the server yet. Not paying or whitelisting. Because you can still get invited though to the whitelist servers, I think, from both. You'd assume probably from the Prodigy public. And you know, I know you can from NoPixel public. But yeah, I got in and tested it because there's like I said, no point applying if it's not going to work. I did read though on the site that well, I did see at least in the Discord that there's the standard allow listing is still open, so you can still apply for that. And that's free. I did post a link somewhere.
Boss.
Guess I'll just wait here. Get it done. Oh, well, for me, I haven't played Supernova in a little while. The last time I played it was on stream last week on Friday, and I streamed it, the racing. And look, I'll be honest, I don't know. For me, I want to grow my stream. That's like my main focus, like, of course, obviously. But Atlas moved, which is the leader, was Willie. He was the one that cruised on out. How you doing, DB Spear? Welcome. He moved on to Zephyr. And I'm not looking to lead. That was kind of one of the reasons why I was like, oh yeah, I'll join your bikie gang. I'll be underneath you. It means no effort for me, right? I can just chill. And then with like the consistency of player base and like how most of the time the consistent player base was the feral few, it was becoming harder and harder to contrive new roleplay situations that didn't feel like it was being repeated. But at the same time, I'm just sitting here grinding GTA Online. But I think that's how I truly feel about it, if I'm honest. That's, yeah. And like, I was going to stream Zephyr, or plan to stream Zephyr. At least until the NoPixel application got sorted. But I don't know if I ever want to do roleplay anymore. Like, I did quit roleplay and I only came back as a Supernova. And if like I'm not doing Supernova anymore, which is sort of why I went to like, well, fuck it, I'm off to this NoPixel application. Give it a go. Like, what's the worst that can happen? But, yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit of a crossroads, really, because like I definitely have most likely moved on to Supernova. That's no doubt, and that's no lie. But I don't know really what I want to do. Like, I was branching out, doing racing stuff, doing like the trucking, trying to do new stuff in that sense. And then like I've kind of just pivoted back to GTA with roleplay, and now I'm kind of just into it with online. But I know I'm going to be streaming GTA 6. I'll be streaming the story mode of it. Cars unlocked. Oh, easy. So maybe it's smart to make that pivot. I don't know. Is it caps? Which one's a bloody takeoff mode? Got one of these? X? Yeah, X. Alright, let's go. I don't know how to actually use it, but we got it. And like, the reason I'd apply for NoPixels is the hope of the 5.0 and stick around for that, but you guys do like roleplay. And obviously, why you guys watch me, right? It's mostly what I've been streaming for like the past 6 years, but... Anything interesting happening? Chat and Don. Well, we're just kicking back doing the grind. Talking about Prodigy and NoPixel. I applied for NoPixel on Tuesday and had my app denied when reapplying today. Going to get my mansion tonight in GTA Online before the new heist update comes out. Oh. Okay, I not actually hit that dude through there. But just mostly kicking back, dude. What? Any cars? Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Ruined your car. Oh no. I know the past 2 months? Where's that? Nice and fun and enjoying it? Oh, that's good, dude. That's good. Like, I was playing Supernova for a bit and just been sort of enjoying the new GTA Online updates as the new heists come out and all that kind of jazz. Sort of getting prepared and getting onto the GTA 6 heist. I actually got a little bit of flight sim, but fuck those the controls are convoluted. But it's a huge game, but it looks so nice. I mean, on that note, I've got Elite Dangerous on my PC and I just not touched it. Not touched it, should get it. Not that convoluted. No, I'm just an idiot, bro. I had the, but it's because I was like, you know what, set it up. I got the flight yokes, I got the sticks, just set it up and bam. Oh, the helicopters aren't as bad, yeah. Well, I was being a spoon. I probably shouldn't have went in full hog, set up the thing and not done the tutorial. I was just in a plane and I was like, how the fuck do I land this thing? What do I do? Oh no, and I crashed and I was like, I'm uninstalling this. No patience. No patience. It's a beautiful game though. I've seen they did the Australia update, which is probably why most people would have sussed it, right? Definitely why I did. Is that any good, bud? Is that what you've been playing? But you kill everybody in the Cessna and wonder why it sucks. Because it is literally what I did. I just went, boom. It's pretty funny. Pull us all out of here. Feedback, re-vertical cam taking up too much of the screen. Ah. Yeah, okay. I can actually fix that on the fly right now, bro. So you're saying this cam here, oh, don't remove it. That's too big in general, like make it smaller. Like you're talking like this sort of thing. Because that's cool. Because it actually probably helps. I was trying to get the pixel position a bit better. And that's 100 from the top. Now if I center that horizontally, how's that? Sparrow, let's go. Or the dolphin. Dolphin. Sounds like an amphibious bloody helicopter, mate. No, that's sick though. Better? Alright, sweet. Legend, bro. And if anyone feels like Slank is shit in stream and you are like, fuck, this is annoying me, just fucking tell me, dude. I really don't care. If it looks shit and I can fix it, I will do it. I'll do it. If you hate Saloon Barkeep and you think I should throw him away forever and get him out of this bloody chat, I will, alright? Google MH65. Let's do it right now. I'll start the sourcing. MH65. Dolphin heli. Oh, it's like the Westpac life-saving helicopter, bro. Like, well, it looks a bit like it, not gonna lie. Holy shit. That looks like a mean heli.
Anything you need.
That looks gangster. It'd be pretty quick, though, flying that around. Better than flying my Cessna, I bet. Alright, we're gonna get this done, chat. I'll run a quick raffle for you guys in chat too in a second. 106 crates, 3 more. Let's go. US Coast Guard, is that what they'll use to take out those Venezuelan delivery drivers, delivery boat drivers? Was those helis, bro? I swear. I did. I don't know if I can even say that on stream. Fuck, man. I want to go to the US one day. Please don't ban me, Donald Trump. I love you, sir. Or hell the toupee. Okay, do a quick raffle for you guys to chat. Distractions, 50k chips for everyone. Boom, boom, boom.
You got the pickup point on your GPS?
No, the smelly hilly, let's go. Mate, I wonder if that's gonna be part of GTA 6 actually. Like, it's Vice City, dude. Surely there's gotta be a mission where you're doing something for Devon Weston and you gotta like use a Predator missile against some poor cunt in a fucking speedboat. Fuck, man. Weston's dead. You have to ruin my fun. That's actually confirmed, but I actually watched that this morning too, because isn't people like speculating that Faber might be the other owner of Merryweather since that like Devon's dead and Merryweather still operates? It's Davey! Yeah. I was about to say that's a cop. Can you really just kill them before? That's actually pretty wild. Just kill the cops. I'm trying to get done by the heli, obviously. Oh my god. Did that heli just crash? Oh no. No time to be driving like a spoon. Could have lost the police before I got into this. That would have been the strat. Next time I'll do that. Because I wouldn't have made the vehicle. I wouldn't have 3 stars in this vehicle. Get some space on these guys. There you go. And then we have Crimson Bean, a G. Whoa! That was fucking close. Oh my god. That's absolute carnage, dude. Alright. Now if we stay down in the canal, we should be alright. We should get away from him. Or not. The fuck? 3 stars, sucked balls. Still taking that exit there. Can I get out here? No. Kinda thought I wouldn't be able to. Probably should have known that. Let's go back this way and exit up here. Congratulations, Viewbot, as well. Getting those chippies. Let's not flip this, please. Literally leaning in my chair. Oh no. Of course, another heli. That's what I was trying to do, was hide under that bridge when I seen that heli coming towards me. Oh, these cunts are going to come towards me, aren't they? Yeah, copies. No! Which one spotted me? I'll go back on this route now. They seem all preoccupied over here. Got one going back out of here. Yep. It won't spawn in front of me at least as well now since I'm looking this way. Oh, spoke too fucking soon. If they fucking catch me, I'm gonna be very upset. Should have kept moving. These guys are better than roleplay police. They find you way easier. Oh my god. There's rockets flying everywhere, fucking scary. Alright, go back this way. I'll sit down here for a minute and just try and lose these cops so I can just drive. That'd be nice. That's all I'm trying to do. Oh, heli though. Every time a heli spawns, it kind of screws me. He's trying to keep their attention on him over there though, so... Or Crimson, sorry, so we keep their attention over there. Right, under this bridge we go. Sweet, there you go. That took way too long. Mostly my own buffoonery, not gonna lie, but that's alright. We have a full warehouse with one more delivery. I have to source 2 more crates, which is pretty handy. And we'll have, we nearly have 11 mil now, so we'll be sitting at exactly enough. Get some upgrades for it. We got it before the 13th, so we get the bonuses that you're meant to get with it, which is the main part. And you see what it looks like. Okay, well thank God everyone in this lobby is empty. Or just noobing out. Oh, Turbo, kick it back, mate. Just enjoy me bloody Friday, you know, had a chill day. Just doing some no pixel stuff. But other than that, been enjoying myself. How you doing, TRX Turbo? Let's crack a lacking with your day. Cheers to you with a glass of water that's empty. Hell yeah. One more delivery. Oh, you ran out of balls there, Jazzberry. I don't know, die. That's so close. The little man needs more Pokeballs, and so like I was saying earlier, chat, it's my little guy Theo. He's playing on Jazzberry's account. Yeah, he's ran out of Pokeballs. I mean, Jazz overheard it. There's a dang from her. Or was that you, Jazz, playing? Is Theo in bed? Am I tripping? Right, so I can pay for them to take the police office. Could I have not just done that? Oh, 15k. Pretty expensive. Not that much, but. Well, if that's the case, I might quickly have a quick water break and say goodnight to the little tyke. Give him a hug. Have a quick 1 minute, 2 minute break. I'll start the sauce and put my slave to work, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Crimson. Yeah. Unless you don't want me to do that. My slave to work. Do whatever you want. Might as well just leave it. Because then we can come back and just source the 2. I was just going to put you on a sourcing for 3, but you don't have to do that. I just feel like a dog doing that. So I'm not gonna let you sit there and be AFK for 5. No, do it. I didn't stop running, you know, so I kind of said it out loud and was like, oh, maybe I will do it. Maybe I will. Alright, but I'll be back in a few minutes, chat. I'm going to get a glass of water and I'm going to say goodnight to the little guy. Because like I said earlier, it actually kind of feels rough. Dude's sitting there interacting with me through a stream. And I'm just in a room 5 meters away. Anyway, much love, chat. I'll be back with you guys in a minute. Make sure you guys join again to this raffle and enjoy the beats. Alright. Be back in a minute, chat.
Well, what's the worst that could happen?
Oh, mate, don't say that, because that irritates me, and I punch blokes in the mouth for saying that.
Oh, we're talking about it now, I don't think. Right. Oh, having a bit of a swim.
Fucking no time for swimming. We're hitting a little jump here.
Nice.
My boss makes $1 while I make a dime. That's why I sit on company time. Oh.
I'm losing them.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's a cop. He's playing chicken with me. I didn't think that was a cop.
Why we're hitting a little jump here.
Nice. Oh, here comes the dip, everyone.
This is something I wasn't ready for.
Ooh! Oh yeah! There's the first crash.
Oh no, oh no.
Oh, fuck.
Somehow keeps my position because it's a fucking one-lane track.
Here I come.
Oh, there's no fucking way. Holy fucking shit!
I'm back. Congratulations, Viewbot. And no one entered the raffle on Twitch. Oh, that's sad. That's alright, bud, isn't it? Alright. That's Crimson up to. We said goodnight to the little tyke. Crimson's doing deliveries. Be nearly done, I assume, most likely. We're going to do a delivery.
You do know that I've got 2 degrees, both in finance.
Well, actually, no, we have to source 2 more for that warehouse, so... But then once we do that, it's 2 more, and it's done. That's at 106, or was it another 3 to get it to 111? Am I bad with my math? I think I got to 109 descent.
I said to him, I don't date less than 9 figures.
Is it not? Is it another 3? I did, yeah. No, if it's 111 though, it's only 2, right? But no point in me exiting. Yo, how you doing, Sonic Shadow? What's crack like with you Friday? How was work? Let's go home. That's what you did. Welcome into the stream. What's happening with your day? Welcome on in. I'm just going to be running around aimlessly. And how far away is this delivery? So I might have time to quickly run. No, you're nearly there. Don't need armor that bad. Nothing. Chilling. Oh, that's alright then. Boring day. How's GTA? It's alright. Just grinding along, trying to get this mansion sorted. We nearly got the money for it. I'll give you a little money check. But we're sitting pretty close to 11 mil. I got got Crimson here working on a warehouse, so I went for a break. Which is pretty kind, actually. Yeah, I've been playing GTA since I was a teenager to be honest, bro. It's just that I never played it on stream. The main games I streamed at the start was, the main game I streamed at the start was Siege. Oh, nice. Cool sound came through. And then I did roleplay after trying DayZ RP for a bit there, but, yeah, no, I've been wanting to get into it, especially with GTA 6 coming out. 2B2T history. That's a throwback. Actually, that's one of those Minecraft servers I always wanted to play. I always watch videos about. Will it come out? GTA 6, who fucking knows at this point. I actually applied for NoPixel but Sonic Shadow, so not role playing at the moment. I'm just sort of in between servers. In between servers, really. Yeah, I got these source too, Crimson. I'm not tripping. I told you I was at 109. Yeah, see? Yeah, no, I know. It definitely does look most likely. It's just funny to keep saying will it even release. Well, it's not coming out on disc, that's for sure. It's not coming out on disc. Unfortunately, but yeah. It definitely will release though, like what you're saying too in chat. Like, they've got release dates. The only thing that's sort of up in the air is like, where's trailer 3? Like, will that even happen at this point? Like, what's the go there? Like, surely there will be a trailer 3. We don't have an official gameplay trailer, right? Like, we don't have anything showcasing it.
Of course I can tell you about Epsilon.
They're pushing, yeah, the dev side, exactly.
And bring it back to the
Well, like, for example, there was, literally, like, a 2 mil probably. We'll do this delivery, and then we're done. But I did see an article today talking about, the software team in India, and how the conditions were pretty bad, where they're expecting them to complete jobs that would take 6 months and 2 to 3 months. And there's no overtime. But then I seen, like, conflicting reports, That's because there's a person helping me grind. I don't know why though. I couldn't tell you why. But the reports are is that that's what business culture is like. Business culture is like in India. So it's not just like the Rockstar software division that they have in India. But I only gave this a brief peruse. It was also a Twitter post. So like, there's been so much bullshit online about it. Like, I don't know what's real and what's not. And I feel like, that's the case of most things at the moment, right? But NoPixel 5.0 is partnered with bloody Rockstar. And they've closed the applications this Saturday. Well, they're closing them this Saturday. Yeah, so then maybe it is like that, Sonic Shadow. See? And that's what I'm saying. I only read things on the Twitters. I don't actually know. Obviously, I'm Australian. And, like, yeah, it probably is the case. Like, you guys have, like, some of the leading edge in technology. And I'd imagine those businesses are pretty well paid. Like, Facebook's well situated there. A couple of big companies, right? So... I'll look into it some more then, so I can find some more info, maybe make some YouTube videos and shorts about it. Yeah, it'd be cheaper labor, yeah. 100%. But, yeah, NoPixel 5.0 are partnering with Rockstar to be part of the Rockstar Games launcher. Which is pretty interesting, which is sort of why I was like, you know what, I'm going to apply. But I'm only applying for 4.0 and then you hope for an invite, right? Yeah, well, it's like the same thing as like companies being based in Ireland, right? Because Ireland had, for the longest of time, some of the best company tax. And like a lot of the major US tech companies would base themselves in Ireland for the better tax incentives. But then Trump made it better to invest back in the US, so a lot of those companies moved back. And that's one of the reasons why Google has so much like free cash, or was it free float hanging about, because they moved a lot of their like the main like financial division back from Ireland to the US. Like, isn't it also coming out that like that Waymo, those self-driving cars, are like actually people in the Philippines on computers? Yeah. Pretty funny. And like, what does that mean for all those court cases that are going on for, like, where they're being like, no, there's no driver, but there's like, there is a driver, there's someone at fault, right? Right. Is this going to be available now? Can I do a delivery? Let's do it. Hit it, quit it. Would I have benefited by a casino heist?
Sale. You're going to need to do some
probably.
The buyer wants to...
Probably, most likely. I believe Crimson here has a casino heist ready to go. But I think we decided this would be better pay for me than it would be doing a casino heist. Because with this, what we're gonna get Cut off Crimson, my bad. You can do both still as well, yeah. And then I'm going to get the upgrades for it. But with this, we'll be able to buy it, though. Isn't it crazy how fast these are? I got in my my acid lab and I was like, what the fuck? These are quick as. Why don't we have these in roleplay? These are sick. But isn't it because they stay in first gear? Like, isn't it like a like an actual Rockstar vehicle thing? Like they stay in first gear for so long, so they accelerate heaps quick. Oh no, I'm making that corner. Oh. Last played it was those brown postal vans. Isn't it like a lucky dip butt? You can get like different vehicles depending. Like, because there's planes, boats, and these trucks. But I've done a few deliveries with these. Like, I've made like $2 million. Do I remember making that $2 million? No. I'm pretty sure I upgraded from small warehouse to big warehouse by doing a couple of deliveries. No, I hope they did. I was saying to people, last I really played with GTA Online was probably 2016, 2017. Like, I had the facility, I had the Avenger, I did the Doomsday heists. I had like the vehicle office where you could have like 100 cars in it. And I remember my dad filled it out with bloody LG Retros. But that's Xbox. Yeah, and I came back and played a little bit. 60 cars, thank you. Well, there's 100 cars in the Vinewood plus one. Yeah. But, and then, like, I did play a tiny bit, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And then, once I seen that Enhanced was around, I was like, fuck it, it's still Enhanced with a bunch of friends, and here we are. Had a fair bit of fun too, because it's all pretty new to me and I don't remember a lot of it. I'm a big noob really when it comes to a lot of this shit. It all feels real fresh to me and it's pretty nice for that reason, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm sure I'll get old and I'll get annoyed, but since you can do things in invite only lobbies, that's like removed a lot of the trolling aspect of it, which is good. And then I feel like there's been a bit of streamlining, like maybe I'm wrong on that. Right, I should be able to lose them in here, surely. I think the next delivery was near here too, so I kind of don't want to go too far. Oh, this might not go well for me though. Cops driving past. Please no. Is that cop going to turn in here? If he does, I'm screwed. No, dude. I'll run a quick rubber for you, even though I've got cops on me. Well, maybe I shouldn't do that actually. I'm going to be focused on this so I don't get done. Should have ran. Pretty unlucky. If you want to look at the commands to Sonic Shadow, it's ! commands, and I'll tell you everything you need to do. For Pokeballs, it's ! buy item, space Pokeball, space the amount of Pokeballs that you want to buy. But everything in there, much quicker and easier to look through that than it is for me to try and tell you, because I got to remember them up. I lost them for a second. And when I have the opportunity to, I'll run another raffle for you, because you need some chippies, mate. Get you some money. We might even have an opportunity right now. I feel like we do. Quick 100k, make sure you guys use ! join. Oh no. Helicopter's gonna do me again here, isn't it? Yeah. Get on them. But yeah, there's heaps of commands in there. Make sure you click on the drop downs and stuff like that. So people haven't realized that some of those things are drop downs in that little Notion page. Yeah, I've made most of these commands through StreamerBot. Some of them are plugins that I've downloaded, but a lot of it I've made myself because I nerded out and decided I would rather code that than 5M scripts for some reason. Even though 5M scripts making money, and that just brings me pain and misery. Now, did I fucking lose these cops? So we're off-roading here. Just trying to get stuck is the main thing here. Yeah, gotta go on the tunnels. That's why I was trying to use that car park. I just got unlucky, I feel like, with the cops spotting me there. But that's alright, look, we've lost them now. And this truck's got enough room for. Look, I can get fucking it back out of here, I'm pretty sure. Well, I got stuck in the counterfeit cash factory fucking deliveries, dude. Lost my fucking money. So fucking frustrating. At least it's only 300k though. Like, it's not the end of the world. Still though, not ideal. Alright. Yeah, the only one I can fit this in right is the Union Depository Tunnel, and then like actual train track tunnels. I couldn't get it down in the Vinewood, like the entryways into the metro, right? Those staircases I get stuck on, I reckon. Probably would have lost them a little quicker if I wasn't dribbling shit in chat, but anyway. I think that does work. I think it's the same with the acid deliveries. If someone's about to blow your shit up, you just quickly DC. I think that's still something you can do. I haven't like done it, but I've not done a delivery job where it's like mattered enough to me where I would do it. With this, if that's the case, I probably would, but would I have enough time to do it before it? Yeah. Yeah, I think that Yayo was saying, yeah, we could do it with this if that was the case. So, like I said, I don't have a reason to do it yet, but with this being such a big delivery, I probably would. Definitely just shit myself. Congratulations, Viewbot. Yeah, no, I didn't even see you entered that. You sneaky bastard. Not that you can't enter them. I just didn't even see it. Yeah, can't drive. Nice. Alright. Excuse me there, miss. Coming through with my dirty terabyte. Or is this the other one, like the rally truck one? What the fuck that is? Fuck, I'm terrible at driving. Brigade. Thank you. Look at that. Because this is, most roleplay servers have this in as a the rally truck variant. But I feel like the tuning of the service has it nowhere near as quick as it is in base GTA. Yes, for obvious reason. No, spoon. Right, just murdered some lady. It's about stealing paintings, dude. Truck, it was actually a racing truck. But yeah, it's about stealing paintings. It's essentially the art gallery DLC that was rumored to come to GTA Online years and years and years ago, but it's finally happening. I think that court center like door has actually been there for years. Lucas Yoshi or something like that. But there's rumors it might involve Michael, but there's nothing confirmed about that. But it's essentially you get a mansion, break into the court center, you can steal yourself some fucking paintings, and you can sell those to different people, to like sellers. There's names for it, and it's related to a character named Mr. Faber. Thank you, Crimson. Hopefully tonight, but I'm fucking being dumb as shit, dude. I'm just hoping these cops want to stop looking for me before they come find me. But we should be able to buy it tonight. It's 13 mil for the cheapest, I think. Yeah, 13 mil. 13. Sorry if I said that incorrectly. Let's not hit this cop car. Oh, there's a cop there looking at the carnage. Thank God for that. Oh, 11.5. Let's make it happen. Yeah, we've got it there already, dude. Yeah. That's why I'm sort of saying we're there at it. We'll actually look at the prices when we finish this delivery because we're going to buy one, dude. I think this is my last delivery and Crimson's got 2 or 3 more. Thankfully we got someone here that's not a spoon. Another crate. What the fuck? Right, that's it. There's one more delivery done. We look at it right now. Spoon. It's just Aussie slang for idiot, dude. Yeah, Aussie slang for idiot. Spoon, spanner. A nicer way of calling myself dumb. Do I not see the mention buying cutscene? I haven't bought it yet. Is there one for when you buy it? Yeah, Richmond Villa. 12.8. 12.2. 11.5. I think this is the one I was going to get to. 11.5 here. We can grab it right now. Literally right on it. Should we just do it now? That money's come in? Or I could do that. I could even get this nice one though. I think so. Crimson, and I'm pretty sure what Rockstar have said as well is Richmond, right? But we won't know until the Court Center heist is out. I think Vinewood has the nicest looking like garden area. Tonga had the nicest looking pools, and then Richmond is the closest to courts and probably has the weakest of the both, but the gardens here are pretty nice too, actually. I don't think it's as strong as the Vinewood, but it's better than the Tonga ones. You know what I'm saying? But let's do a quick cash check. We're at 12.8, so we can literally get the most expensive one. Yeah, we'll look at Courts right now. So Courts is this center just here. So that mansion we're looking at is this one here. Yeah, so this is... We could actually go read that as well if we wanted to, but this is a quote from the Rockstar site, the Newswire. For those making their initial foray into mansion ownership, there's still time to take advantage of a special limited time bonus GTA offer and Pricks Luxury Real Estate... Oh my god. Pricks Luxury Real Estate's Richmond Villa property in the Richmond Hills, Vinewood Hills. This is a short drive to the court center. Alright. Let me try and say that again with fucking English. For those making their initial foray into mansion ownership, there's still time to take advantage of a special limited time bonus offer. And Pricks Luxury Real Estate's Richmond Villa property in the Vinewood Hills is just a short drive to the court center. Yeah. And I think when we were looking at it with Crimson, I liked Tonga the most. But for the look, Vinewood was sort of like the other one. But then, the more I think about it, should we just do the Richmond one so we have the one that's closest? But you can buy all three. I've seen that Marilyn Monroe painting. There's a pretty cool paintings up on the Newswire page. And I've also got a thing on my YouTube. I say that's a good idea. Let's take us through the mansions again. Probably just do the Tonga one and the one next to the court center though. Oh yeah, I left my way. I'll leave that too so I don't get raided actually. Don't get raided. But yeah, I got a little thing on my YouTube, a little short. There's a thing on my TikTok as well. If you haven't sussed up my YouTube, it's exclamation mark YouTube in chat. And it's also exclamation mark TikTok. I'll bring up both of them. But if you want, we can look at the Rockstar Newswire. I had it Newswire. I had it. We can actually look at the paintings I've done here. I'll bring it up. There it is there. And this tab off. Alright, and let's go back to here. All three, yeah. Oh, true, the Marilyn Monroe one. Well, we'll reveal this though. We'll reveal this. Let's go to the screen. And then we'll get rid of the GTA challenge wheel for now. So this is the Court Center heist. I'll read it out quickly as well. Might as well, right? Scope out Los Angeles. Oh, it's got a weird apostrophe there. Scope out Los Angeles premier cultural space and pocket prized artworks in the Court Center heist. Coming to GTA Online July 14. Link up with the mysterious Mr. Faber and his chief fixer, Raph D. Angelis, to take on a blockbuster new heist where you'll meticulously take out the museum and carefully plot your approach. Then snatch the Court Center most valuable exhibits. Crim's got like 420 million, dude. They're laughing, bro. And we'll read the important thing of this. Once renovated, a gifted counterfeiter will occupy the studio, crafting forgeries to replace the valuable target pieces inside the museum. Consider them, your personal artisan residence. Gear and tech will accumulate inside your art studio as you prepare, and you and your associates will be able to select from the stockpile when building a custom loadout for the finale. Approach solo or with a crew of up to 3 or other players. So 1 to 3. Having extra hands may help you escape with more. Raph will be your point man for the heist, sharing reconnaissance and vital intel as you execute your well-prepared plans. You can also expect your mansion's trusty AI assistant to come in handy. And this is what Crimson Descent. For those making their initial foray into mansion ownership, there's still time to take advantage of a special limited time bonus GTA offer. And Prick's Luxury Real Estate's Richmond Villa property in the Vinewood Hills is just a short drive to the Court Center. And then the last thing here, of the last paragraph here about being secretive, is covering your tracks and being covert will be crucial for a maximum take, since art known to be stolen will be harder to fence, commanding lower prices on the secondary market, ensuring no witnesses and wiping CCTV footage will keep the heat off you and your take higher. Sorry. And these are the first four pieces of art, right? So I think that's referencing Red Dead. Someone made a joke that this is referencing the death of Red Dead Online. Crimson made us aware that this is the reference to the rabbits being murdered by the mansion that was built closest to the casino, because the spawn points are left in and you just hear rabbits dying as he spawned in. They'll be in your pool. And this one's an obvious reference to all the different GTA characters throughout, well, all the series, to be honest. Like, we got, like, there's CJ here, there's the Sasquatch, there's Chop, Lester, Friedlander, possibly. There's that Sasquatch Hunter. There's a few people here, and there's like ones I don't even know. Like, that's probably the security guard that Michael shoots. Yeah, there's a fair few characters. There's an alien there that looks a bit like bloody, is it Phil Cassidy? But yeah, I think Claude's in here, but I don't know. I don't think it's every character, but the thing that I was watching didn't mention that there was Claude. I'm looking at this guy here and thinking that might be Claude. I'm not lying to you. First one is Yankton with Red Dead 2 references. Second one is GTA 4 ending, so that's the actual reference. That's why it looks like Nico. That makes complete sense. Rabbit Glitch. And fourth is St. Dennis with GTA characters walking around. Well, I can send you the link too. I've also got a short on my YouTube. If you go look at my YouTube by using YouTube and chat, plugging it hard. I break all this down and tell you what you need to know, and show you the artwork. So the only thing I missed in the short, and I'm kicking myself about this, is not bringing up the new car that's releasing in GTA Online, which is this one here. And also not mentioning the I think the GTA Plus exclusive stuff, or maybe I do. Yep. It's so cool though, they are, and it looks like they paid like real artists to do this. And the thing with the car is exclusive to GTA Plus for the first week. And then everyone else gets it, or the plebs get it, the peasants. Yeah, 100%. And it's good that they did. It's good that they did. But anyway, that's enough dribbling. Let's go and look at these mansions, eh? Gotta be about 2 mil. Yeah, it's nice talking shit, but things aren't actually that overpriced. Take a good look this time. Yeah, well, we're about to buy it, so we'll actually look. And so this is the court center one first. So we're literally right next to the court center here. Now let's look at outside first, because this is like what Crimson was telling us, and it's probably fair. You're really paying for this garden out here, and being able to do the elite challenge. If you can't afford like multiple fucking mansions, then you want to be, you know, picking the one for the elite challenge probably, and then the one with the gardens as your secondary object, right? The one with the court center near it. And they're all the same inside. Vinewood is poo. Do you have the Vinewood one? That would be this one over here, right? A little more time limited. So Tonga's probably the coolest one, is closest to the bunker. Oh, so this is Vinewood. And you don't like Vinewood. Yeah, well, this is Richmond. Richmond's here. Tongas are there. And then Vinewood's over there. Yeah, you're tripping, bro. The Vinewood one probably is the shittest one, though. But I like the garden of it, dude. Like, that one has the, Now, I think you responded in chat at the at points where I was saying something else, so it looked like you were saying something else, Raw. That's my bad, bro. Yeah, Tonga's way closer to the coast. And the reason why Tonga would be good is my bunker's here. Yeah, I got that straight away too, Raw. My bad, bro. I'm too quick, mate. I'm too quick off the mark, alright? I'm just excited, to be honest. Doesn't matter. See, and that's like that, and like that's more me just being like, it's nice to have it all placed together. It's the free one this week, so everyone's gonna have that one basically. And I don't know why I'm looking inside so much, because like Crimson said they all look pretty much the same inside. That's not Chop too disappointed. So you're just paying for the views and the court center. And we're gonna probably try for the elite challenge, but how much do we care? Well, especially because you can do them all from the room downstairs. Can we have a look at that? Because I've never seen this, right? I'll not look at it properly. I'll go join that invite in a second too. But I'm assuming, is the planning room down here? Basement levels. Probably can't go in there. But there's a room where you can just restock all your businesses with. So we'll go look at this one's view. So what do you guys think of that one? It's not that crazy. You got the city. It's pretty close to my my backlots and stuff like that. Again though, it doesn't matter. And like I said, when Crimson showed us this last time, last time I looked at these at Crimson, this was the one I picked, because I was like, this one looks the nicest. That garden's pretty good. Like, I don't think the garden's as strong as a Vinewood garden, but that view's like immaculate, you know what I mean? And if court's only being what? You got this road, that road, but you're probably gonna fly, so it's just there. Just as that mansion is literally like a block away. Did you send me a friend request too, mate? I'll accept your friend request, mate, if you have. To the game invite. No friend request to me. Yeah. Makes it all easier, especially with how I play the game. And the thing is too, is it doesn't matter. Like, eventually you can always buy the other ones. Can I get the cinematic view easily? Let me snooze this ad, because we're probably gonna bloody... Can I do it? was already snoozed. Sweet. Alrighty. Let's go do it. Let's go buy it. I was actually heartbroken. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I was like, you added a crimson. Is it because I'm poor? Am I not good enough? Oh. Alright, let's do it. I can't afford to customize it, but can I? You'll do all this later. What are the additional rooms? So you can get an arcade in here. That's cool. Get an armory. You get a car podium. And a vehicle workshop. That's cool. That's gonna cost how much? Another mill. Holy shit. Yeah, you can do the casino heist from there. The diamond casino heist, right? So. Like, can I not just buy none of these? Yeah, I can. Do these cost extra money?
How do you do, sir? I am Haviland.
What's cracking, homie? It's OG.
So good to meet you. I'm Angel. Can I call you Daddy?
What are the gooners picking? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, that one's too much. That is too much. If you're doing the heist and you have the angel voice, dude. Bro, if that's talking to you throughout the entire heist, that is too much. That's the haughtiest one. That's Princess Robert Bubblegum right there. Let my boy goon. Let my boy goon.
What's cracking, homie?
So
it's OG.
We got Lamar. You have Angel and PlayStation. You horny bastard. You horny bastard. You need some help. Actually, where is that? You literally, I swear I think I still have that set up. Where is it? Get some help. Is it not set up? It should be set up. Please. There.
Stop it. Get some help.
That's too much.
How do you do, sir? I am Haviland.
Oh, we have Jarvis. What do you reckon, chat?
What's cracking?
We getting the OG.
It's OG.
We getting the Gooner.
You. I'm Angel. Can I call you Daddy?
I can't even take that seriously. Or we getting Jarvis.
I am Haviland.
You said the mummy one sounds hornier. It would sound way worse, dude. I can't take it. You want Jarvis? Jarvis. I reckon Jarvis is good too. I like Jarvis. We're taking too long to pick this, but you might as well, right? I reckon Jarvis. I wouldn't... I know what my dad would pick. My dad would 100% pick the OG. He'd be like, yeah, I'm OG local, this gangster, bro. Alright, anyway. Sus. Alright, 12.8, let's go. No, I gotta travel over there. Oh, that makes sense. Right.
Hi.
Rip money. What we at? 85k, chat. We brokies. Or that'd be a funny fucking reference, wouldn't it? If it was OG Lake from fucking San Andreas. That'd actually be crazy, dude. Can I get in this car? Isn't, aren't they like... Yeah, OG Lake. Isn't like... It's not... Yeah, CJ and Franklin are cousins, aren't they? Like, in real life? Like, actually cousins. Try to get Uber in this stretch Hummer. Why don't they brought him back? And it's like also a shame that Lamar didn't get a bigger part in the main story mode, right? He's meant to. Yeah. And how you doing, Huggy Buron? Welcome to the stream too. And Jake, welcome on in. Good timing. Get to see me get this bloody, this mansion. Put in the cinematic cam, we pull up in style. Oh, yeah, it did. I wonder who it actually is. Have they announced that voice actor? Or if it's on their thing. Oh no! I've got to snooze this cutscene again, can I? Yeah, hell yeah. We're snoozing that shit. Am I getting followed? Oh, it's Crater. Not gonna lie, it scared the shit out of me. I was like, who's that? Who's following me? There you go, accepted, mate. There. And if you guys want to invite to the East Coast Infamous crew, you know, you guys hit us up with a friend request. It's also open. It's also an open crew. And it's been running since GTA Online first started. I think it's a little bit after the fact. It was like from February of 2014. It's actually my dad's crew that me and him were running back when I was a fucking teenager, when I was 14. It was to help people out and stop them from getting griefed. That was like our main fucking like aim. We'd just be cruising around lobbies and helping them do deliveries and stuff like that. And now I'm the one that's getting griefed because I'm a fucking noob. Big noob. Do a quick run for you guys to chat to while we pop to this mansion. Alright, la-boom. Yeah, make sure you use the X-Ray short join and get in there. Hey, is it one of the high setups here?
Welcome home, sir, and congratulations. You've purchased one of the most desirable properties in southern San Andreas. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Haviland, your AI assistant, and I will be here to support you in any and all business and personal matters. Might I start by introducing you to your new home? The office is the crown jewel in your work-home interface. You can control any number of your business assets from the comfort of your chair. Downstairs, we have your garage and secure vault. But I do hope you will take some time to pamper yourself. A healthy mind is a wealthy mind, as they say. Do find time to use the spa, indoor and outdoor pools, cigar room, and... Excuse me, sir. I believe there's somebody at the door.
I was like Alfred about to bust a nut. Mad blue balls, bro.
Welcome. Amanda.
Hey.
When we saw the house was taken, we were going to send a gift basket, but we thought since we live on the same side of town, we should just stop by.
Michael, good to meet you.
Oh, I love this. This is Zelma Bosch, right? Oh, honey, you know her. She's always trying to get her work into one of your films.
Bro, I'm in my boxes. I don't want fucking visitors right now.
Look at this view.
Nice.
Put the Vaseline and the tissues next to my bed.
I saw a tour of this in Ideal Living magazine, and I'm just dying to have a look around. Now this is class. Ah, our dining chairs are by the same designer, aren't they, Michael?
I don't know.
Amanda Thick.
Did you get ripped off too?
Ugh, ignore him. Oh, it's a cigar room, Michael. You should have a cigar room.
Now that I could really get behind.
In our house, the living room is our cigar room.
Hey, honey. Did you see the countertops in the kitchen?
No.
Oh my God.
They are not onyx, are they? Oh my God, I love onyx.
You've been flying under the radar, pal. Until all this. But we got a lot of the same friends, you and me. Cayo Perico. That was you, wasn't it?
And these fittings.
Okay. This isn't necessarily my business, but we got a lot of people I trust that seem to trust you, so we'll stay in touch, yeah?
That's it. We're renovating.
Of course we are. Did you check out that place in Tongva Hills? You didn't buy that too, did you? That previous owner, he wasn't very nice.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you already had guests.
Ah, forgive the intrusion. I had a stake in the development of these places, just checking
Get out of my house.
everything is in order. A wonderful pool you have here. I just had to see who made the purchase. Mr. DeSanta, this is an unexpected pleasure, truly. I am Mr. Faber. Perhaps you have
Yeah, he
heard my
does.
name.
Yeah, I heard it.
There you go, Mr. Faber.
Yes, indeed. Your last picture, that was a success. I have always admired your work.
Yeah, somehow I doubt that.
Oh, you are too modest. And I didn't know the two of you were associates.
No, just met.
Well, perhaps the three of us can work together. Now that would be a dream team, as they say. And you must be Mrs. DeSanta.
He's so in this heist.
Another pleasure. Now, do excuse me. I am in Santos to hear a Series C pitch. Driverless taxis. You've probably seen them around. Meantime, if you should need anything at all, my people are everywhere. Huh?
Well, he got his attention. You want my advice? Watch yourself with that guy. With assholes like that, it's all smiles and hand jobs. Till it ain't.
Michael, come on. The sun deck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is so nice. Michael and I are empty nesters now with too much time on our hands. And our son is finally moving away from home.
Here. You know, this is a nice neighborhood. I think you're gonna fit right in. You have any problems, though, let me know, right? All right. Come on, sweetheart. Let's give our new friend here a little time to unpack.
Enjoy your new home.
W. Jimmy, he moved out finally. Damn. Did he get a car though? Probably not. Probably bloody not. I doubt he got a car. That's sick. That's a sick cutscene. Michael is 100% gonna be in this heist. Like, it's not confirmed. Obviously, it's not confirmed. But, Jiminy Cricket, Lucifer on my doorbell, this dude, that just seemed way too much. Like, if it's with Dr. Whatever his name is, Mr. Faber, Dr. Faber, and then he's just like, us three, like, that cutscene, I see what the speculation is that he's gonna bloody, be a part of the heist. And that would be sick to have Michael as a part of it. And one of the cool things about these mansions is they have...
According to my statistics, 70% of San Andrean billionaires have a regular fitness regime. 70% are also sociopathic. Food for thought, sir.
The good thing about this is you can increase your stats. No way out, it's something you should try at some point. It's like Cluck and Bell. I have to give it a go. Yeah, I doubt they added him on just a whim for the mansion purpose. And it's people about robbing places. Like, yeah, that's got to be it. Because I think, didn't Franklin get teased the same way? I haven't done any of the No Way stuff, though, either. Been meaning to. Been definitely meaning to. But yeah, the good thing about having the mansions is you can bloody work out of them, right? And increase your stats. Is it just strength, though? Can I not do anything else? I'm assuming it's all, these are all strength training.
Markers to your profile, sir. Tenacious, formidable, big and beefy.
I should have done that angel voice. That'd be so comedic if you what they say at this point. Yeah, cool. And we buy a dog to put in here. Oh, it didn't say why you had a dog. That's actually pretty cool. I like that as well. Get a Westie. Alright, well, fuck. Now we broke his chat. The next thing I'm saving up for, other than upgrades for this, we might as well have a look through our mansion properly, though. We haven't actually looked inside of it. But, the other thing we want to buy, I'll quickly show you it now. And it's not that cool, it's not that amazing, but it's a car. And I don't have any personal cars yet. Like, anything I drive by myself. It's like just a car when I drive around. It's this thing. Don't ask me why, I just really fucking like it, okay? Don't judge me, it's a cool car. It doesn't seem that good to me. It doesn't seem that good to me. Not the driverless cars, like, also, like, bad. Kind of similar to how they are. Oh, this is the master control terminal. So from here you can restock everything. Yeah. Is Elon Musk like evil or like severely under-socialized? Elon's actually in the game?
Now, as I mentioned before, this is something I like to call the MCT, the Master Control Terminal. It's a little program Paige started putting together a while back. This baby connects your whole business network, from the open road to SecuroServe. From here, you can see the stock levels of any business you own, and
A
more
reference character though, not officially as Elon Musk.
from here too. Have full control of
Yeah.
all your businesses from one chair. Gone are the days where people need to get up and move to control an empire. This is the digital age where the lazy rule.
Just want to listen to him talk there for a second. So we can just go straight in. I can hit resupply, buy it, boom. That was dumb. I have no money. Shit, I have no money, chat. What am I doing? Fuck. Oh, we'll keep looking actually, because it's interesting. But I just automatically bought that, and that was dumb. And this one's only this part, so you can't pay those guys to go source them for you, but you can just start a mission from here. That's sick. I'll take that. Got a little invite. Oh, it's the arcade. Looks like we're about to do a Diamond Casino heist. Alright, let me just unregister as a CEO. So I can look at the stock of my... What's it called? Counterfeit Cash Factory. Money for Don. I'm broke now though. Right, and this one, let's see what this is like. Same thing. Supplies level are low, we've got to resupply. I can't afford it, but we brokies. Alright. Yeah, exactly right. Alrighty then. Well, let's leave this. This band. Not the right one. There. To the arcade. That's mad. We got the mansion. Got sorted with that. We should probably change the title. Oh, and Son's doing the slush fund mission. That's bloody Joey. Might need some help. Which one is this? There's one in the city. Yeah. There's a few people in our lobby too. No worries. I'm gonna quickly change the stream title. Oh, I had caps lock on. That's annoying. Alright. Bam. No longer racing. Oh, boom. No longer racing. No longer racing, that's for sure. We still need to get some upgrades though. We could be doing a bit better with the upgrades. That's the next thing we got to sort out. Yep, got myself some armor. I'm sorry too, Joey. Give Don all the monies. You don't have to give Don all the monies. But Crimson is balling. Characters level 88, 222, 1222, and 88. That's kind of uncanny, isn't it, with the levels there? But so I just brought over my legacy character, and my character on GTA Online on my Xbox One is like 120. And my 360 though, I'm like 200 and something, or 150. Like I got pretty high up there. I just never never played it really on my PC. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing though. I played it 360 GTA, and then I played on the Xbox One. And so there you go. I missed the migration for the 360 to 1. I missed the migration from 1 to Series X. And then didn't they do a migration? They didn't ever do migration from Xbox to PC, from a console to PC. I missed that as well. And so did my dad. I just got unlucky, dude. And like, to give you, like, I was, like, not living at home, but, like, I got kicked out of home in, like, 2016, and then I swear that was around the time they did the 360 with the end cut-offs or whatever, and I didn't even have an Xbox One until I was, like, 18, and I didn't get a Series X until, like, 3 months ago. So, oh, sorry. What's going on here? But yeah, that was the main thing.
What you and your team will be wearing on this little adventure.
Something's going on though. I think my buddy PC shit in the bed. I've been in the East Coast Infamous crew, and I've been in the East Coast Infamous crew since February 1st, like, or February sometime in 2014. So I'm talking out my butt. I've been playing GTA since day dot. I had it on my 360. It was one of the first games I got. And I had that. I had Modern Warfare 3 and Skyrim. And then for my 12th birthday, I got GTA 5. Or 13th. That was a bit early. Played online when it came out. It was broke as. And then, yeah.
Don't forget, you are private security. Like a cop who couldn't pass the fitness test or the psych eval. Look like
Is that a speedrun strat? What the fuck? Teleport. That's bad. I've actually never seen that before. Oh yeah, no, nothing. Yeah. Ruff showed you that. So even Ruff knew that. I've never done this heist. I've actually never done it. So Doomsday was the last one I did, and I did Kyo because that was the way you made money.
You're earlier than expected. Just gonna check your VI number. Chip delivery, huh? Sure. Go straight through and leave her on the left. You can take the elevator or stairs down to the vault.
Keep grabbing gold then. We'll open doors. Yeah, like I said this to Crimson is ready. Crimson said that to me in a text, so like stay behind. Oh, because this is like the Bogdan, right? Where you can just like close the game and restart.
Okay, now get in the elevator and remember, inconspicuous.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. Yeah, what are you trying to delete, Nova, mate? I'm trying to get rid of all your bloody...
Next security check's coming up. You can do this. You keep her cool. Don't be nervous, you know?
Just walk through? I'm trying to get rid of all your bloody RP service, but bro.
You
Yeah.
for the vault? Right up ahead. Out here for the vault, yeah? I know you're not rogue sex. Things are gonna heat up now. Holy shit! My side. Give me
You ran into the desk and accidentally hit R or something, bro. That's so unlucky. Was it me? Was it me? I just watched it and went, oh, fucking hell. Restart checkpoint, page up. Ben. When I got hacked, they made like 100 servers called the N-word. Jesus Christ, Nova. Wasn't me, the Crimson, mate. I just watched it and I was like... So we get the Elite Challenge. Nah. I don't think it matters that much.
Now play it cool. You're doing your usual day.
Nah, you're right, bro. I don't think everyone's that stressed. It was just like... Oh! It was one of those moments, dude. Don't worry. Me and Nash were doing the Fleeker heist, and we could have got it done. And then I think I fucked it one of the times, and he fucked it, and we were like, you might Bogdan it. Oh, true. And that's like where you just leave at the end DC, and it leaves it at the same point, like you never completed it. You never get the money, but everyone else that completes it gets the money, right? Is that the right way of understanding it? Yeah, money farming. So gone are the days where you sell cars. Well, especially because they added that thing where, was it, you have a limit of 5 cars a day or something like that, and they diminish in price? Well, something like that. It's like 500k, and then you can't sell for like, it's like actual real life days, right? Yeah.
Next security check's coming up. You can do this. You keep her cool. Don't be nervous, you know?
Howdy. You looking for the vault?
I am.
Y'all here for the vault, yeah? Alright, you're gonna need your key cards to get into the man trap there. 2-card system. Swipe at the same time. Yes! Come on! How much better does it feel when the marks are this dumb?
Alright, let's go.
Keep going!
I was worried you couldn't run, and that would set these guys off, but if you're in disguise, it kind of makes sense you can run.
Okay, so far so bueno. Push on to the vault. There'll be a guard there to meet you. Don't break character just yet.
Oh, you're here. Why didn't they say something?
Bingo! We have struck gold.
Alright. I'm just gonna punch him. So what do I do?
Seeing as we stayed under the radar, we have a little more time.
In here?
Now, your hacker can block the security sensors while you're in the vault, but only for a while. If the system goes quiet for too long,
Take the carts, and we're going into these ones in here, or
did I mention that if the alarm goes off in here, they'll flood the place?
W spawn?
No? Okay, well, I'm mentioning it now. If you're making good time in there, try getting into some of the lock boxes.
You get that one over there too. Bloody police sirens in my song just weed me out. Go on. Grab AF. Gotcha. Is 2 minutes a lot of time? Boy, wasted a bit of time standing behind you there, I'm sorry. Opening C. C open. Alright, get this next one. Leave it 30. That's how you need 30 seconds left. Gotcha. You got time. We'll go grab that G. You got G? Alright, I'll go to A then. Was there D in here? Yeah, D. Go to D because it's further away. Oh, we should have a full take then. So we don't muck it up. Touch some wood, get lucky. Right, that's it. Start getting out. Go, go, go.
In and out undetected. Who would have thought it? People,
Right. On you.
we cleaned them out. Okay, let's see if we
W indeed.
out as smooth as the way in. Get your key cards ready.
Taking daily vault. Probably not, I'd assume. Maybe not. I have to wait and see. Because we have time. Because we got it. Nah, yeah. Yeah, I could have done this too and be instantly out of bloody out of thing as well. Charlotte, you go in front. Yep.
Alright, now stay calm. Back the way you came through the checkpoint. Nothing to see here. Back the way we came is too risky now that you're carrying the loot. Let's fall back to the rear door. Y'all done in here? Hey, listen. That fella on the vault door? How'd he look? We snuck a double strength laxative in his coffee. He'll be shitting slurring in his britches by now.
All right.
Poor dude shitting himself.
Get in the cargo elevator and use your key card. Play it cool.
Right. Oh, and you unlock the door on the way in, so it's easier on the way out. That's smart.
Stay calm. They've seen what you did to the vault, and now the whole place is locking down fast. They know you're still in the building. Just keep moving and keep quiet. All right, look busy and shout LSFD if anyone gets in your way. Time to change your outfits. We need a fresh start if you're gonna make it out of here under the radar. They're closing in on us. We need to pick up the pace. Security is sweeping the whole building. Stay one step ahead or this whole thing goes south.
Oh, smart. You're doing it silently. That's crazy. Then we can all just get changed quickly.
As long as you stay calm, those outfits should get you from here to the exit. The cops aren't letting anybody through the perimeter, so you'll have to do that the old-fashioned way.
Right, put the gun away. Nice. Yeah, way easier. Do my daily wheel spin.
Okay, I know we just dropped the deuce on the most advanced security network in the state, but there is such a thing as getting cocky, people. Allow me to remind you of the private army of extremely angry Texans who would happily put a bullet in you right here on the casino floor. I suggest you focus on getting to the
Well, all the heists are pretty easy if you know the routes, right? That seemed like it was pretty smooth as long as you know the route. It's just knowing the route. And not being a spoon. The fuck? You done it like 700 times? Yeah, it seems pretty smooth. Know the exact point the guards are going to spawn, turn, rotate. This will knock them out. Yep. Being your stats, right? So. Well, it's only show total for heists. Probably only does that. I'm gonna get out of here.
Remember, they know the vault's been hit, but they don't know who you are or where you are. They have patrols sweeping the whole place, and all the civilians have been evacuated. So if they see you, they'll know it's you. So just stay out of their way, keep your cool, and get to the buyer. The driver has the getaway car in position. I've pinged you the GPS. Get to the buyer, don't bring the cops, and we're home free.
Damn, I'm trying. Go, go, go.
Alright, our decoy is online. The cops are confused as hell. Don't get seen near him, or the cops will figure out what we're doing. I've pinged your GPS.
Why am I so slow compared to you guys? Is that hell gonna find me? Come on, fuck yeah.
Just got word from the decoy. We don't have long before they have to tap out. Make the most of it. Alright, the decoy is out. You're on your own now.
Oh, I'm bushing it. Yeah, smart. What the fuck? What the fuck? This is gangster. And you steal the police heli.
If the buyer hears so much as a siren, this whole thing goes up in smoke. Lose the cops.
This is a strat 6767. Yeah, especially because you run so slow. It's like when you're running in the last, it was at the Polito. Yeah, that's a sick strat. It was just like, I don't know if you guys are watching my face, but my eyes are just like, holy shit, this is big brain time. This is. No, well, I don't watch guides that much, Raw. So, like, a lot of the stuff I read is, like, just the maths of stuff, right? So I'll, like, look at, like, oh, what's the most efficient, what's the most, like, beneficial, what the business makes the most money, and, like, how much they make it and where. But I don't, like, I do watch them, but, like, I was meant to watch a guide on the Doomsday thing. Denver did that. I was meant to rewatch Kaya Perico before I'd done that, because I've done it and had it prepared, ready to go, and I had a thing, what's going on here? I had a thing set up for it. Something's going on. I think my PC's overheating. That's alright though. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, it's getting close to Don's bedtime. I think it's pretty likely, after we get the cash of this. Might even call it. Have to get a car. More. You want me to fly it? Oh, you need someone else to land in there. Gotcha. Get in. Actually, I'll take the flight with Kratos. Why not? Don't kill us though, mate. Oh, big faith now. Fuck it. What, are you starting to land it in the trees? Is that what your drama is? Oh, I see. I see. Just jam it in there. I think that worked. Just get the mission started, the cutscene started, and you're good. That's funny as. GG. Thanks for the money, guys. Help me through it. Oh yeah, and Crimson did the cheek. GG indeed. Look out, I'm not broke. Money, money, money. I could probably buy that car off the bat if I wanted to. Oh, not actually. You're close though. Yeah, yeah. I realized that after I say it, being like, why to bring attention to that? Just under. Yeah. But that's alright though, because there's a plenty of things I can grind and get some money with. Mad. The art gallery. That's not out there yet, is it? I can't buy it yet, right? Or can I buy it already? Hidden in plain sight. A couple of diamond fucking challenges. I'll take that. Professional. Better bank this cash though. In services. Bank that shit. Oh, you're game white. You DC. Actually, we definitely have enough because now we have... I don't know where that 400k came from though. Yeah, I don't know. I only had 40. Not even that. I had like 10k left. Where'd I get that 400k from? Oh, first time bonuses. And I got a couple of diamond rewards, right? Or awards. Have a look at career. Let's see if I've got anything in there. No rewards yet. It'll be in the stats and awards part here that I got that. No, assuming it's this one. Where is it? Where is the diamond? Oh, they're complete. Support act, that's diamond. Remember, that's a earn 250k. Yeah, mad. You got me. I think you got me like half of the diamond challenges for that. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy, dude. And so what's the next thing now? The art gallery upgrade, which you can't get right until the 14th when that comes out. We get a little we get a discount on it, but that's a fair effort. It's solid, yeah. Thank you so much for that, Crimson, and thank you for everyone hooking into that stream. But I think I might call it here. I know that Sonic City be right back. I hope you can hear me right now. But I'm gonna hang out the missus. I'm gonna call it there. We've got the mansion done. We've got a bit of money afterwards, and now I've got to get back on the grind and make sure we have money for the stuff next week. And I guess there's more businesses to buy. There's more buildings to get. So yeah, it's just about buying the upgrades for it. Just the rest of it as well. Yeah. So I need to get an agency so I can get the armory upgrade, and I couldn't get any of those upgrades except I think 1 or 2 of them, so I need a couple more buildings. I had the arcade, but I wonder which buildings I'm missing. I have to have a look at a little guide or something online. We'll figure it out. But until then, you guys, if I can point you guys over there, maybe me out in the ocean, you guys are legends. All right, thank you guys so much for hooking into the stream. Thanks for kicking back and enjoying it. And we'll be going live again on, Monday's our next scheduled stream. I don't have a time for you guys yet, but most likely be sometime around 12 Australian Eastern time. We might also have a cheeky stream on Sunday, but it depends how we go over the weekend. There were a few things I want to edit and get out into YouTube. And if I get that sorted and done, and I also get this NoPixel application in before Saturday, then we'll probably get a cheeky stream on Sunday. Agency's worth it too. I've heard of that. It's got some good missions, and it's got where like a lot of the new content came in, right? You can do like the contracts through it and shit. So I know the agency's definitely worth it. Just gotta get the money and do it, right? I'll keep you guys in a loop of how I go for NoPixel. If you guys want to hear more about it though, use ! Discord, get in my Discord. Even in my maybe post something on Instagram if I get any luck, as well. So if you want to stuff about Instagram, you can do that too. But thank you guys all for chilling in the stream. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Much love. Peace out. Enjoy. Enjoy the rest of your night. And yeah, thank you guys so much. All love. Bye-bye now. Oh, I can't forget. Fuck Kelly Holiday.